Next topic is Spring Web Services. So by Spring Web Services, we are mostly focused on SOAP-based web services in this presentation, and we already covered the RESTful-based web services supporting Spring Framework when we cover, Spring MVC REST, right? Okay, so this is how to build SOAP-based web services. So these are the set of topics we are going to cover. So what is and why Spring Web Services? So Spring Web Service is designed to facilitate what is called contract-first SOAP service development. And we are going to see what it means to build contract-first SOAP-based web services in the following slide. And it allows for creation of flexible web services using one of the many ways to manipulate XML payloads. So here in contract-first SOAP-based development environment, basically you are sending XML messages back and forth between web service client, and web service provider. And it does provide pretty flexible the schemes for manipulating or reading XML payload. Based on Spring, so it is certainly based on Spring core itself, which means that you can use all the Spring concepts, such as the dependency injection, as part of the whole Spring Web Services framework. So why you want to use Spring Web Services? So these are, so Spring Web Services captures the best practices of building SOAP-based web services. It is based on WSI basic profile, and it's contract-first development, and it supports loose coupling between contract and implementation. Okay, so we are going to cover these aspects in detail in the following slides. So let's talk about the Spring Web Services features one more time. So it provides powerful mappings. So as I said before, it provides pretty powerful mapping facilities based on payload, the contents of the message, and the action header or XPath expressions. Okay. So yeah, you can pretty much you can actually use various schemes to extract, for example, certain fragment of XML payload and things like that. It does provide pretty comprehensive XML API support. So it supports DOM, SACs, and stacks. Those are JPA APIs. And it does support DOM APIs such as JDOM, DOM4J, XOM, or it does support the marshalling technologies such as JAXB and or Xstream. Okay, so pretty comprehensive set of XML support. So marshalling support is pretty flexible, as I said before. It does support JAXB 1 and 2, Castor, and Xstream. So typically people use JAXB 2 version 2 these days. So that's actually well supported in Spring Web Services. Because this XML marshalling utility, the features are a separate module, you can actually use it even in non-web services code as well. You can certainly use Spring expertise you built up because, again, Spring Web Services built on Spring core, the architecture, so including dependency injection and all those things could be actually used in Spring Web Services. Okay. The architecture of the Spring Web Services resembles that of Spring MVC. In fact, when you are building Spring Web Services endpoint, it's basically the service that actually handles the SOAP request. Okay, so Spring MVC handles the HTTP request, right? And SOAP Web Services is a service that handles the SOAP request. Okay. It does support web services security, so this is the industry standard that supports web services security. So this is well supported. So again, this is actually including encryption and decryption and authentication and all those good things. It's well integrated with the ASECI security, so you can certainly use Spring security along with Spring Web Services. Okay, so let's talk about the concept of contract first. So there are two different ways or approaches for building web services. One is contract first approach, and the other one is a contract last approach. So in contract first approach, sometimes it's called the top-down design. You start with a WSDL document, so web services definition language document, and then you are going to create Java from it. Okay, so that's a contract first approach. So you define WSDL as a contract first, and then you create the Java code from it. Okay, so that's contract first approach, and that's what the Spring supports. Okay, contract last approach is that you have Java code, or you write with the Java code, and then you are going to generate WSDL, web services description language contract from it. So that's the contract last approach. Sometimes that's called the uh, uh, the top down. Yeah, so this is top down approach, and this is a bottom up approach. Sometimes that's the term people use. Okay, so we're gonna actually stick with this term, contract first approach and contract last approach. And as I said, Spring Web Services support only contract first approach. Okay. These are the reasons why Spring Web Services designers decide to support only contract first over contract last. Okay, and there are various reasons. The first reason is object and XML impedance mismatch is much more serious in contract last approach. Okay, so there are some mismatches between object model and XML model in the same way that there is a mismatch between object and relational database model. So this mismatch has to be handled. Otherwise things are not going to work well. So this mismatch exists. However, this could be the mismatch is more serious in contract last approach. And contract last approach is more fragile. So the reason is because each time you change your Java contract, meaning, and that means the contract has to be changed, and that means all the client has to be changed as well. Okay. However, in contract and also in contract last approach, not all SOAP stacks generate the same web services contract from the Java contract, meaning even from the same Java code, depending on the package, the WSDL document that gets generated not going to be compatible. Okay, might not be actually the same. Okay, so that is another reason. Performance optimization is easier to do in contract first. So again, in contract last approach, when Java is transformed into XML, there is no way to be sure as to what is sent across the wire. So, if you are doing contract first approach, and then you can actually control what message is going to be sent back and forth between client and server. However, if you are doing contract last approach, the XML message that gets generated is going to be, it could be not. It might not be the XML message not really optimized, okay? Because that gets generated by by the tool. Another set of reasons why contract first is supported in Spring. Contract first provides schema reusability. So, if you define your schema in contract first approach, meaning schema of your XML message, and that could be reused in different applications. And the contract first enables loose coupling between contract and implementation. So in contract first approach, so this is actually somewhat similar message here, and we are going to actually talk about this one using an example later on. Contract first handles versioning better. So looser coupling between contract and implementation in contract first approach allows us to implement multiple versions of the contract in one class. So we could, for instance, use the XSLT style sheet to convert old style message to the new style messages. So once you got the contract, the actual implementation could be changing without actually affecting, for example, like a client code. So that's basically what this is all about. Okay. Now we're going to actually do the Spring Web Services comes with a bunch of sample applications. So here we're going to actually run the sample applications. Okay, so that's exercise 1. So let's do exercise 1. Import all the Maven project, and then let's go to exercise 1. So here we are going to build this package. So you are going to go. Let's go to, and let me see if I have a Spring. Okay, so here go to samples, and then you can see, and then Spring. Okay, and then yeah, I've got the samples here. Okay, and we are going to actually run. So we have actually multiple samples. So airline, echo, mtom, pox, and stock code and tutorial. Okay, so basically you say maven package or maven install, then it will create all the projects. All right, so we are going to just build a server. I'm not sure, the client is having some issues. I have to take a look at the case, why that is the case, but we should be able to actually build and run the server at least. So go to, so 1.2, we are going to go to server, to go to echo and then server. Okay, so here we are going to say maven and jetty run. Okay, so here the web service is up and running on JDF server. Okay, and then we should be able to actually get the WSDL document. So if you click this guy, yeah, you should be able to see WSDL document. So this is the WSDL document that was actually generated and published by the web service. Okay, and then the web service client comes with in these two flavors. Somehow I'm actually having a problem actually building a Spring Web Services client flavor. So I'm gonna actually try one more time. So echo client and Spring Web Services. So you open another terminal window, and then you go to the HS and the Spring Web Services, and go to samples and Spring, gain samples and echo, and in echo you have a two different client. Okay, so what you want to go to do is the client and Spring Web Dev. Yeah, so here okay, so go to echo and then go to client. Okay, and here you have two different versions of the client. So Spring Web Services. So this is the one somehow I'm having a problem. So I'm going to just say Maven and exec and Java. Okay. Yeah, so I'm having a problem actually the field execute goals. So yeah, it's having a problem actually executing this particular. It's actually exact, Maven exact. Okay. So let me see if I can actually do Sage. And let's see, I can actually do the same thing. Yeah, this one works okay. It's actually respond fine. So for somehow Spring Web Services, when it worked, it should actually come back with this response, hello response. Okay, and you can actually run this Sage client and it should work fine. Here we are going to also actually try to use what is called the SOAP UI tool. This is something that you can download it. There is a free version of it. Okay, and then you can actually run. This is the tool that you can access the web service. So this is a web service client. Okay, so I'm going to run the web service client. Okay, so here I'm going to open again, and okay, so UI. Oh, so I think I have it somewhere. Yeah, so this is one. So here you are going to specify the URL. So the URL is basically this WSDL doc, this location. So you're going to give this WSDL location to SOAP UI, okay? And then you can actually create. So let me see whether it's actually getting started. There you go. I don't need. Okay, here we go. So you are going to create a brand new project, file, and create a new SOAP project here, and then you specify whatever project name choice, test project, and then you provide a URL. Okay, so this, oops, not this is the file. The URL I want is the location that we have. The location is this guy where we have this WSL document. Okay, so I can just go this one, and I can just capture this guy and initial, and then okay. Okay, so it connects to it, and then it actually have a request object here, and I can actually take a look at the request object that gets created, and this question mark, I can send the data. So here I'm gonna say JPassion, something like that, jpassion.com, and then you can send this request, and then response will be actually sent back. Problem accessing Echo services 4.4. That's not good. This web service thing is not actually doing well for me. Okay, so here, yeah, so we have to actually set this guy. So the URL is incorrect. Okay, so we have to, if you see the documentation, what we have to do is, so go over here, and we did this. Yeah, somehow you have to actually have this echo dash server. Okay, so you know, you have to actually create the echo dash server like this. Okay, and then send it request, and then you can see it actually send back the response message correctly. Okay, so here oh, this is the validation error. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so we are gonna actually capture this one, and we'll actually create a brand new one. Add new endpoint. Yeah, so this is the one. Okay, now we are going to actually send, maybe it has a dash thing, so let's actually see, just send the JPassion and just send it. Okay, now let's see whether it actually sent back the response message correctly. Okay, yeah, so this time it has been successful. Okay, so it sent back the JPassion. I think the if I have a dot, it has a validation error. Okay, so this is actually a tool that you can use as a client. Okay, so that's basically what we just saw. And then 1.4 is tutorial. This is actually for the server side only, so we should be able to actually run this one as well. So go to again tutorial site. So yeah, this is the client, and we are gonna actually stop the server. Yeah, so I'm gonna just close this guy, and this one, yeah, just close this guy, and okay. So here this time we are going to actually go to tutorial. So this is the one that we are going to actually build step by step tutorial here, and here again we are going to say Maven Jetty run. Okay, so this is running. Okay, so now what we can do is actually we can do the same thing. Okay, by the way, if you receive java.net bind exception, that means that port number is actually taken, you know, because you haven't stopped the previous web server. So in my case, because I stopped it, I don't experience this problem. And again, you can go to this URL location, and you can see again, you can see the WSDL document. Okay, and you can also use SOAP UI to send a message. Okay, again, you are going to actually specify this URL location, and make sure you actually have the change URL. Yeah, this one's supposed to be actually not Echo server, but the tutorial server. Okay, should be tutorial dash server, and then, you know, when you actually send the request, and it will actually and then when you send it, then you are going to receive the response. So this is the booking for, you know, Sang Shin. This is the response that you will receive from the service. Okay. All right. So I'll give you guys about 10 minutes to try this exercise one. So for now, just, you know, work with the Echo server and the SOAP UI client. Okay. I'm going to find out what continue. So here we're going to actually talk about how we can build contract first services, okay, web services. Since we're actually focusing on the server side and we are having some issues with actually building client for now, okay. But as long as you understand how to build the services, I think that's good enough for now, okay. So let's actually see how we can build the service. So first, you are going to create the Spring Web Services Maven project, and then we are going to define sample messages. So in Spring Web Services development, before you create the XML schema, you're going to actually come up with some sample messages that you want to actually send back and forth. And from it, you can use a tool to create the XML schema. And then you are going to implement the endpoints. So this is the Java code, which actually, is actually server-side web services. And then you are going to configure the generating and publishing WSDL. And then you are going to configure web.xml file with a message dispatcher servlet. So this is basically, the web services version of the dispatcher servlet. And then you deploy the application. Okay. All right. So step number one, you are going to use a Maven project. So here, Maven archetype and create, and this is group ID, artifact ID, and this is a version, and this is a group like com, jpassion.com, HR, and then artifact ID is holiday service, okay? And then you can actually update the pom.xml file. So we'll actually take a look how, what needs to be updated in the pom.xml file. And the step number two, we are going to create a sample message. So here we are building holiday, the holiday hotel reservation, holiday service is basically the so basically hotel reservation service is like a holiday and employee and holiday request. Oh, this is actually holiday request for a particular employee. Okay, so this is the XML message that we are going to actually send. So we have a holiday request and then we have a holiday. So this holiday message, holiday information and employee information. So this is employment information and this is employment information. So basically you want to actually create the holiday message fragment and employee message fragment and then holiday request fragment combining these two. So this is the XML message, example message that you are going to send to a web service. And then we are going to define a data contract. So the most common data contract we are talking about is XML schema. Okay. So you can use tools to create XML schema from a sample XML document. Okay. So you can use STS, you can use other XML editor tools, and you can use individual tools such as Trang. Okay. So that's something that we are going to use in our sample in the hands-on lab. And this will generate a schema that reflect that example message. And then you want to actually polish that XML schema document because they might not be exactly what you want. Okay, so make sure there is only one single root element and use date element instead of the string element. These are examples that you want to actually pay attention in terms of polishing. Okay, so this is an example. So suppose XML fragment that gets created is like this, okay? And if you want to allow, so this is a case that we are trying to change. We are trying to polish the XML document, XML schema that was created by the tool to reflect more correctly what we want. So in this case, start date and end date. So in this case, this is what gets generated by the tool, and obviously this start date and end date, you want to actually set it to date. XML date element. Okay, if you don't change it, then this would be allowed. Okay, so obviously this is not a date, neither is this, right? Okay, so if you want to set to a date here, then whatever invalid, the date information will be invalid. It will be performed with a validation. Okay, validation check will be done. That's what I meant. Okay, next step is implement the endpoint. So this is where your coding is going to be created. You are going to actually code your web service endpoint. So the endpoint is typically created using a class with the endpoint annotation. And here you are going to create a few methods that handle incoming request. Okay, so the method signature can be quite flexible. You can include any sort of parameter type related to incoming XML message. The method typically uses the service to handle business logic handling. So inside this method, you're gonna actually use the service to handle the business logic. Okay. Okay, so this is an example of endpoint based. This is endpoint. Yeah, so you annotate with the endpoint. Okay, and this is the namespace URI. And then what we are going to do is, yeah, so here, we inject the human resource service object, so that's the one that we want to delegate our business logic handling. Okay. All right, so now this is a method. So handle holiday request method is going to receive the payload from the client. So the payload route, it basically tells the Spring Web Services that handle request method is suitable for handling XML messages. Okay, so this is the namespace and this is the local part. Now, this is a method that will receive the payload, and then the contents of the payload, meaning that XML message, will be captured in the form of a holiday request. Okay, so you have to actually specify request payload annotation. Okay, and then once you got the payload holiday request, then you can actually extract the data from that XML and to get the in this case we are going to get the start date and end date, and we are going to get the name. Okay, so from XML message that is received, we actually converting the XML the sub elements into the start date, end date, and name. Okay, and then you can actually perform business logic by calling business service object, human resource service object. All right, now the when are you going to generate WSDL document? So Spring Web Services provides the feature so that it will generate and publish WSDL document automatically for you. So in order to have it to generate WSDL document for you, you're going to actually specify this one in the the context configuration file. So dynamic WSDL and ID is holiday, and you specify port type, and location URI is holiday service, and the target name service, and this is the XML file. And then from it, Spring Web Services will generate a WSDL document, and it will actually publish a WSDL document under this location. Okay, so this is holiday service, your service, and then holiday.wsdl. So that is it is going to take the ID of this, okay, and then that WSDL document, and also holiday location URI, that is actually this guy, okay. And then you have to configure web.xml file. So this is basically all you have to do. Basically, setting the dispatcher servlet, which is playing the role of the front controller for receiving SOAP request message. And then you can deploy. Okay. So in exercise 2, what we are going to do is we are going to actually take these 6 steps for building that tutorial web service that we actually play around in exercise 1. Okay, so let's do exercise 2. Okay, so you are going to create the Maven project. So basically, go to Spring project. And let's see whether I have already holiday service. I'm gonna just rename holiday service. I'm gonna just name it as junk. Okay, so we are going to use this Maven command to create the project, web services project. All right, so since we actually provide all the information, I should actually create a project. Property, I just accept it, say yes. Okay, so project is created. Okay, and you can actually import this project to STS, and you want to modify the pom.xml file with this information. So the DOM, JDOM, and some these are all the XML manipulation dependencies. Okay, so you actually copy this guy and then update the pom.xml file. So in this case, what we have created was yeah, so okay, so that doesn't, it's, as a default, it doesn't actually include this XML manipulation dependencies. So you have to add it. Okay. All right. So let's actually try that. I'm going to actually add Spring Web Services. I'm going to import and Maven project. So it's a Spring. Okay, so I'm gonna just say, and the name of the project is Holiday Service. So I'm gonna deselect all Holiday Service and finish. Okay, so it's Holiday Service right here. So we are going to change pom.xml file. So we are going to, as a default, it doesn't actually include these dependencies. So we are going to include this dependency, copy, and then add this one inside the dependency right here. Save it, save. Okay, and then we are going to create hr.xml file. So this is the sample, the XML document we are going to send to the service. Okay, so again, it has the holiday and employee and holiday request. Okay, so we are going to create that one under webinf. Okay, so we are going to go src main and create a new and file hr.xml, finish. And here we are going to capture this guy. Okay, so we created hr.xml file. Now what we are going to do is, now we are going to create the XML schema from this sample message. Okay, so you are going to actually copy this trang.jar file. So it's actually provided on the tools. Okay, so if you actually go to the sample, this hands-on lab. Okay, so if you actually go to here, so here tools, right? Okay, so this trang.jar file is provided. Okay, so you want to copy this guy into the directory of your project. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this, trang.jar. I'm going to actually copy it to temp, and then I'm going to go to my project, Spring project, and holiday service. And then we go to src, and we want to actually go to where we had the sample messages, main, and we go to web app, and we have webinf. This is where this hr.xml file. So what we want to do is, we are going to convert, we are going to create the sample XML file by using this trang.jar file. So what you do is java-jar, trang.jar, and XML. Yeah, so this is your XML example document, and this is the XML schema document I want to actually generate. So we're gonna do this, Java, not this one. I'm gonna just close this guy as well. Yeah, so this is the one. Okay, so we are going to run this command. Okay, so now it's going to generate, unable to access job files. Oh, I haven't copied it. Okay, so I have to copy from temp, from trends, job. Okay, so that is copied. So I'm going to actually run this command. Now you can see we have generated XML schema file. So this is hr.xsd file. So if I take a look at this file, hr.xsd, okay, it has something to be, for example, polished, as we talked about, this start date and end date. This one needs to be, the date, and it also have a multiple global object. So we have a multiple global object, okay, which is not desirable. We want to create a single global object, okay. So what we want to do is, so this is what gets generated. So what we want to do is that we want to actually create the single. Basically, we are going to actually make it as a single global object of this. Okay, so we have single. So here we have holiday request. That is the only one. So basically what you want to do is holiday request. So this is the only one that we want to have as a global element. Okay. Anything else we want to actually, this one we don't need as a global element, so we can just remove this guy like this. Okay. This one employee we don't need as a global element, so again you actually remove it like this. Okay. And then you want to actually have this complex type as all, because you don't care about the order of holiday and employee. And again, you change this one as a date. Okay, so basically you're going to actually change this one as a date, and that is, and then we actually change this one instead of sequence. We can have it all. Okay, because we don't care about we don't. Yeah, so this one I have to change it to all as well. Okay. All right, so that's basically the polish we do with this XML file. Okay, so we save the file. Okay, and then we are going to create endpoint. So this is where a lot of your code is going to be. So we're going to create the holiday endpoint. Okay, and basically you're going to actually copy this whole code. Okay, so basically here we have this. This is the class that plays a role of endpoint. Okay. And then we have handle holiday request method that will receive the payload. Okay, so we're actually using payload, and the actual payload contents will be captured as a holiday request. Okay, and this is the code that you have already seen. Okay, all right, so that is a code that you want to create, and this is the business service object. This is interface, and then we have a very simple implementation of holiday, book holiday. It's all it does is just logging it. Okay. Okay. So then you can actually change the configuration file in which you want to have WSDL document to be automatically generated. So this is what you want to add in the configuration file. Okay. And we also do the component scan. Okay. And then you configure web.xml file with this message dispatcher servlet. And then basically you deploy the application. And then you can take a look at the WSDL document. So as long as you have a WSDL document, that's the only thing that is required by the client. Okay, so as long as you got to this point, being able to display the WSDL document, that's the only thing I care at the moment. Okay. All right, so I am going to, let's see, that's exercise 2. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to get to that point. Okay, so let's move on to web services client. Okay, so Spring Web Services provide the client-side utility class called the Web Service Template. Okay, so basically it is a utility class that you can use to access a web service. Okay. It also actually handles the use of marshallers and unmarshallers so that the service tier code can deal exclusively with the Java object. By the way, marshaller and unmarshaller, I'm talking about JAX-B kind of technology where you can use to generate the Java classes from XML schema. So web service template class, it contains, this is a core class on the client side. So it contains methods for sending source object and marshal object XML, okay, and unmarshal any response XML to Java object again. So the web services template class uses URI as the message destination. Okay, so you can either set default URI property on the template itself or supply URI explicitly when calling a method on a template. Okay, then the URI will be resolved into web service message sender, which is responsible for sending XML messages across the transport layer. Okay. You can set one or more message senders using message sender or set message senders property in the web services template class. So we'll see an example of that. In terms of transport, you can use HTTP transport or JMS transport, email transport, or XMPP transport. So you can pick and choose different transport, even though HTTP transport is the most common. Okay, so this is a way that you are going to, this is web services template. Okay, bean, and here you specify message factory, and then this is the URI. This is the destination. Okay. And now this is how you are going to send and receive messages using the template. Okay, so basically you get the source object, you got the result object, and then you are going to use web services template and then send source and receive result. And this source and result is sort of the Java object, and they will actually do the conversion for you. This is, you can actually use the explicit URI. So if you want to specify explicit URI, you can do that as well as the first argument. Otherwise, it will actually use the URI that is configured in the bean. Okay. You can send and receive POJOs. Okay. So here you are going to actually using marshaller. Okay. Exercise 3 is, so let me actually finish up the presentation, then I'm going to actually explain the hands-on lab exercise a bit, and we are going to actually move on because I like to finish Spring Batch and Spring Integration. Marshalling and unmarshalling. So, basically marshaller and unmarshaller is used to the marshal XML document to Java and vice versa. So when you're sending it, it will actually marshal the Java object to XML. When you receive a response, it will unmarshal it, the XML into a Java object. Okay, so you're going to actually use marshal send and receive method to do the marshalling and unmarshalling. And of course, marshaller and unmarshaller need to be configured. Okay. So exercise 4 is marshalling, unmarshalling. WS addressing is, this is one of the specification, one of the standard specification in SOAP community for specifying transport neutral routing mechanism. Okay, so without using WS addressing, you are depending on transport, like mostly in HTTP header, as a way of actually specifying where you want to actually send the message, right? So that's not really transport neutral. So so WS addressing is a new specification that specifies transport neutral routing mechanism. So basically, if you see SOAP message, this is like a message ID reply to, and this address. So this is all WS addressing schemes. Okay, so this is the SOAP body. This is the only thing that we have dealt with up to this point, right? But in the header, the addressing information can be specified if you're using WS addressing. So WS addressing is supported in Spring Web Services, and WS security is also supported. Okay, so you're talking about authentication, digital signatures, and encryption and decryption. Okay, so it comes with the security aspects with these two interceptors. Okay. In terms of the web services security and web service addressing, next week we are going to have a 5-day web services code camp, and we are going to actually deal with those issues in detail. Okay, not from the Spring Web Services standpoint, but from the technology perspective. Okay. All right, so let's actually take a look at the lab documentation of exercise 3 and 4. Okay, and then we'll actually move on. I'll let you guys actually do this exercise at home. Okay, exercise 3. So this is web service client. So basically what you're going to do is that you're going to get the web service client object, and then you're going to call get send resource and receive result, and you basically send the request, and then you actually get the you basically pass the result object, and result object is the one that will actually contain the response message. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And so 3.2 is playing around with the stock code server and client. Okay, and so this is the response message that is received from stock code service. This is the code. So code is again pretty much the same from the web service template, and then you run this method, invoke this method. Okay, marshalling on the marshalling. So the marshalling in JAX-B, WS import statement is the one that is used to create Java object. I'm sorry, the to create Java classes from the XML schema. Okay. So in this case, basically what we do is that, this is the WS import statement, and then you're going to specify the, basically it's going to parse the WSDL document. Inside that WSDL document, it has XML schema, and it will generate the Java code. So what gets generated is basically this Java code. Okay, so this Java code represent, the XML messages, XML schema, the elements. Okay, all right, and then here run the JAX Web Services client, and then it will actually return these things. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move ahead. So that is the end of the web services. I apologize. Some of the client code didn't work. I don't know why that is the case. Oh, looks like I didn't even record this one. Oh, I did.